have a full house today. All our trustees arrived today on time and present. We appreciate that very much. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 24th meeting, and they have been distributed to the trustees in advance of this meeting. Are there questions, comments? Move approval.
Second.
A motion made and second. Cast your votes. And our minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Item 3 on our agenda is to approve some claims against our trust. We have a much shorter list than normal to approve. I think there's only 3 claims on it. And do you have any questions on the claims? Chair would entertain a motion to ratify the claims.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion made and second. Is there further discussion? Please cast your votes. And the claims are ratified. Thank you very much. Items for individual consideration. The first 2 items are related, and they deal with Cameron International Corporation increasing their operations here in Oklahoma City. Are there questions of the staff? Is Cameron represented here today? The Chamber is represented here. Thank you.
Mike Ogan's here if you have any questions. But Cameron plans to add 105 new jobs over the next 5 years. They're an oil and gas equipment company. Their recommended SIP amount that we're asking that you allocate in this resolution is $350,000. Their estimated annual wage in the first year is just under $50,000 a year. So,
and I would assume this follows our normal pattern. It's performance-based.
Yes.
If the jobs aren't created, if they don't meet our criteria, they're not paid for.
Right. Yep. So this is our standard agreement, standard format.
Are there any questions of staff or Mike? Item. Well, I think we have to vote on them separately, but they are very much related, Jim. So I think we could, if we vote on A, we can then do a quick vote on B unless there are some additional questions on the agreement.
So that we can make questions of B?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like a clarification on whatever, on B, on page 7, item D. Brent, would you be so kind to advise us of why that's changed?
Yes, ma'am. We've done about 15 contracts since our program started, and we've had some issues where companies were reluctant to get us information on a timely basis. So we modified this section. It used to be 60 days that they had to submit documentation to us, and I had no leverage with them to incentivize them to get it to me before that. So what we did is we doubled that to 120 days, and then added at the back end of that paragraph that if failure to do that, they will forfeit 50% of whatever they earn in that fiscal year. Just to give them a nudge, and I worked with Cameron's site selector on this, and he said that was more than fair. So.
Question. Larry, do you have a question? Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion then to, Wiley, can we vote on these together? Or should we? We'll have separate votes. Okay. Item 4A then is the resolution. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution. A motion made and second. Are there any further discussion? Cast your votes. And that item 4A is approved. Now we have to vote on item 4B. Are there any additional questions that occur to anybody on item 4B?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify Rhonda's question, that sentence actually needs to have the word days put into it. It just says within 120 following. So would offer that as an amendment to the document submitted, and then I'd offer a motion of approve.
Okay. Did you pick up on that, Brian? Thank you. A motion made. Is there a second? Second. Motion made and second then to approve item B with the change that Trustee Roth has suggested. All those in favor, cast your votes. And item 4B is approved. Thank you very much. Item 4C is a presentation on Project 180 construction update.
I'm Mike Clark with the city's Public Works Department. I appreciate the opportunity to present a Project 180 construction update for you today. As always, please stop me with any questions or for clarifications of the information that I have to offer. We begin with the map that the Trust and City Council approved back in December. It shows the streetscape packages that are either under construction, have been completed, or are considered as future work. I would also remind you of work in the Myriad Gardens, Bicentennial Park, and the interior pedestrian corridor project that's on the 3rd floor of the East City Center garage. Our photographs begin at Colcord and Walker looking east. Colcord is the street immediately south of City Hall. The contractor is currently working on the east half of the Colcord-Walker intersection. Within the next 2 weeks, we anticipate that you'll be able to turn east off of Walker onto Colcord and then exit over at Park and Hudson. The contractor will then move to the Couch and Walker intersection. By the end of the month, we anticipate that you'll be able to drive fully around Patience Landing Circle and exit again onto Walker. Next, we see a photograph taken at the Main and Walker intersection looking to the east. There is two-way traffic established on Main all the way to Hudson. The sidewalk and amenity zone have been finished on the north side of the street. As you can tell from the photograph, work remains in the median and in the amenity zone on the south side of the street. This photograph was taken at Park and Robinson looking to the south. Two-way travel is available from the intersection of Park south. Due to basements at the First National Building and the Oil and Gas Building, not much will change about the sidewalk on the east side of the road. There will be a full sidewalk and amenity zone on the west side of the road, and that work is progressing now. Two-way travel is available on Sheridan from the Film District through to Bricktown at this point. This photograph is at the Sheridan-Hudson intersection looking back to the west. The sidewalk and amenity zone have been finished on the south side of the street. The sidewalk and amenity zone on the north side of the street is expected to complete by the end of this week. This is the same intersection, but looking back to the east. For the first time in about 2.5 years, traffic is available on this block of Sheridan. The 2 blocks of Sheridan between Robinson and Gaylord are our busiest area currently. Paving has been established on the south half of the street, all the way from Robinson to Gaylord. New paving has been established on the north side of the street from Robinson to Broadway, and then work is currently ongoing on the pavement from Broadway to Gaylord. The sidewalk and the amenity zone have yet to be completed on either the north or the south side of the street. This photograph was taken at the Sheridan and Hudson intersection looking to the south. Hudson has been opened up from Reno north to Sheridan, and sidewalk and amenity zone has been finished on both the east and the west side of the street. This photograph was taken of Hudson during the Arts Festival, where tents are installed in Hudson, and the street is actually closed down for the festival. And then because the Arts Council has done such a good job of integrating the Myriad Gardens into the Festival of the Arts, I've included several photographs that were taken by Zach Nash of the Public Information Office. You see the water stage being used. You see a sidewalk that's in the northwest quadrant of the gardens. You see a young lady in one of the planting areas adjacent to the Great Lawn. You see a child playing in the children's interactive water feature, and then the Crystal Bridge at night. I've included a rendering from Bicentennial Park. This would be if you were on probably the third or fourth floor of City Hall looking to the west to Civic Center. This is a photograph of actual construction that was taken about a week and a half ago. Another rendering from the Bicentennial Park project where you see a sidewalk and a seat wall. Again, an actual construction photograph. You see the CMU block that forms the basis of that seat wall. It will be clad, both be faced and capped with a granite. And that's what I have for our presentation today. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Are there questions for Mike? Mike, when are you going to finish the project?
Soon, I hope, Mr. Ryan. Package 4, which is the work primarily around the Devon facility, Hudson, Sheridan, Robinson, that work is expected to finish up in July. The work here around the Civic Center, City Hall area, that will finish up in the December timeframe. There are some future packages that are being considered, a package 6 and possibly a package 7. I believe the plan is to develop a recommendation and then come back to the trust and the council in the July timeframe and seek input on that.
I had one of my constituents accuse the city of trying to get all the streets finished in time for the streetcars to be put in, so we can tear up the streets again, but I think that's not the case. Anyway, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Next item on our agenda is item 4D, and this is a retail marketing report. Kathy, are you going to talk about this?
Actually, Brent has a brief presentation to make concerning this report. This report was recently completed at the request of the city to look at the retail efforts that are undertaken by the Alliance and by the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, and to help us define roles and responsibilities as we begin to prepare our next year's contracts. So, Brent?
Thank you. In December of 2011, the City Council awarded a contract to Economic and Planning Systems Incorporated to develop a retail plan in support of the city's comprehensive plan known as Plan OKC. The contract was funded by a federal grant. Since that time, city staff, along with chamber staff and the Alliance staff, have been working with the EPS as they review the city's retail policies. As you're aware, the city is very dependent on sales tax, and we've engaged with the Chamber since 1992 for economic development services. 2006 contract year that was amended to add a retail function to support the recruitment of new retailers and support existing retailers and brokers. And in addition, considerable resources for the contract focus on the annual International Shopping Centers Convention, which occurs in every May, and other duties include compilation of extensive market and demographic data. In April 2011, the city and the trust entered into an agreement with the Alliance for Economic Development to be the single point of contact for economic development in Oklahoma City. One service included the coordination and implementation of retail strategies and incentives. I didn't want to go over, but this also includes a list of all the other duties required from the Alliance. The purpose of the study was in February 2012, it was made known that the Chamber's retail specialist was retiring, and with the consultant on board doing the retail plan, the city manager thought it would be good to have someone clarify the roles and delineate the responsibilities between the Chamber and the Alliance, since the Alliance was in its first inaugural year. The City Council subsequently approved an amendment to the EPS contract to review the existing structure and make possible recommendations. EPS interviewed key staff at the city, the Chamber, and at the Alliance. The contract also reviewed the skill sets for the optimal chamber position. The Chamber held off on replacing that position until this study was done. The consultant emphasized the overarching goal is to promote new investment and provide new shopping opportunities to the citizens of Oklahoma City and its visitors, and enhance the city's sales tax base through cooperative and collaborative effort between the Chamber, Alliance, and the city to foster new and ongoing relations with developers, retailers, and brokers. Now for the recommendations. The report noted that the Chamber's primary role is marketing and outreach to national retailers and developers considering the Oklahoma City market. These next two slides provide even more detail. The key points are the Chamber's responsibilities. The Chamber's responsibility is to market the Oklahoma City and be able to provide the retail community with the necessary market data research. In conclusion, the report stated the Chamber should focus on a marketing and outreach skill set when they seek to replace the retail specialist. The report further stated the Chamber should utilize the new research position more to free up the retail specialist replacement. Regarding the Alliance and their role, the report recommended the Alliance's contract incorporate more of the strategic initiatives outlined in the city's retail policy. In addition, EPS recommended the Alliance take the lead in developing strategies and programs in underserved areas or regarding underperforming locations or regional retail locations. The takeaway from this report is the existing organizational structure with both the Chamber and Alliance appears to be working well and no significant changes are necessary. The report stated the Chamber needs to continue its efforts in marketing Oklahoma City and recruiting new retailers and supporting existing development, while the Alliance needs to focus on strategy areas both from a planning and implementing and closing deals. And in all things, they focused on the communication between the three parties. Our next steps are we're actually meeting with the Chamber tomorrow. The Alliance, the city, and Chamber are working together and to focus on these recommendations and focus on getting their new staff member on board. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Kathy and Roy and Cynthia, I'm sure, can elaborate on this more.
Are there questions? Jim?
Yeah, I do, thank you. Can you clarify for me how the recommendations differ from the past practice?
I would say they're not much different than what we're doing right now. It was nice to have another set of eyes just to look at what we're doing and say, okay, this is where your niche is, this is where your niche is. And in all things, we have to work collaborative on.
Right. It strikes me as suggesting that we had it right
Yes.
prior. I was a little concerned that it cost $100,000 to be told that.
No, sir, we did not. No, sir.
Fees only cost
10,000.
10,000?
Okay, thank you.
The overall retail strategy that's a part of the update of the Oklahoma City Comprehensive Plan is $100,000.
Okay, great. I misunderstood your slide where you added the money. Thank you.
Rhonda?
On the develop strategy, as far as the Alliance, develop strategy, implement, and close deals, so are the three entities involved in the overall strategic planning?
What I would see happening is that all three entities would be involved in the strategic planning. I don't think any of us plan to work on something that big independently. What I foresee happening is that the city's in the process of completing this overall retail strategy for the entire city. From that, the city will be able to inform the Alliance and the Chamber what they would like us to do in the future, and then we can use that to develop more specific plans for specific areas, specific types of retail, those kinds of issues that would come out of that.
Kathy, is your charter broad enough to include this work without additional council action?
Yes, it's included in my current scope of work. What I would anticipate in the future, though, is if we undertake something more extensive or intense for a specific area, that it may require some additional funding to do that, to hire the right consultants or to get the right kind of study going for a specific area.
Yeah, fine.
How do you develop the strategies? Do you have one individual, two individuals? How is the strategy developed? What goes into it?
Well, I think a big part of it is going to be the market research and the demographic research that's a part of the update of the comprehensive plan that helps us identify where in the community is there leakage of retail, where are people, leaving the city limits to shop somewhere else, where is the opportunity to develop additional retail resources because that part of the community doesn't have adequate retail opportunities. So we need to take all of that data and then, sit with the city staff and the chamber staff and my staff and try to develop some overall strategies, like I said, either for a particular area or for a particular type of retail we would want to try to attract, like a regional retail center. So
So do you have a chief strategist? Who is that?
That would be probably me, but, yeah, so. And then the city planning staff and the people at the chamber. I mean, we all work together.
Additional questions? Larry?
I just one comment. I continue to have a probably unfounded concern that there's not enough integration of the retail strategy with Lariat Landing going on. I would hope that I'm wrong in that, but that Lariat Landing be considered, and it could be even possibly that retail regional center you're talking about.
Are there any other comments or questions? The action then is to receive the report. Jim?
Yeah, just an additional comment. I very much appreciate the recommendation associated with repurposing underperforming retail locations and anything that can be done to add some spark to where that area's lost its luster. I think every city struggles from that, but it'd be nice to see a strategy like that for our sake. And I would move approval of the report.
Second.
Have a motion made and seconded to not necessarily approve the report, but to receive it. That's the only thing we have to do today. Is there any further discussion, comments? Please cast your votes. And the report is received. Thank you, Kathy. Item 4E, Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation Professional Services presentation. We have, Roy, what's his name here?
Yeah. Oh, what's his name?
That's inside joke.
For the record, I'm Roy Williams with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. Mr. Chairman, members of the Trust, thank you for the opportunity to let us present the 2013 budget requests. Like the other presenters, I will be very brief and then certainly open to any questions that you might have. It's already been pointed out, but we've had a very long relationship with the city in this particular contract. In fact, this is our 20th anniversary. We began in 1992. And just to remind you, this relationship and this contract not only provides direct services to the city, but also you leverage those funds very significantly with the private sector funding that the Chamber gets, as well as with county funding that we get. So combined, this all provides resources to both protect our economy and to grow our economy. I didn't go all the way back to 20 years, but went back several years. Our particular request here, as you see in the far right chart, is for $900,000 total, which would return the funding to the 2008 levels. We had a dip in there. As a result, we've had some decreased funding that's impacted our marketing activities. This would allow us to fund back at those levels and allow us to augment some programs that we've not been able to implement. We also have had significant increased needs in marketing budgets. There's a lot of update stuff we need to do, video, photographs, et cetera, and certainly more research and other online strategies. There are 6 different components to this contract. I'll go over each one very briefly. The first is business retention and expansion. This is obviously the biggest source of job growth for us. Our staff meets individually each year with over 300 of our top primary job providing companies. We provide them technical assistance and whatever other assistance that they particularly request. The Boeing announcement, and you know everything about that, is a really good example of how not only do we work to recruit them, but once we get them on the ground, we also work with expansion and do a lot of relationship development to help grow it. In the last 5 years in the area of retention and expansion, We worked on 377 different projects, 21,547 new jobs resulted, payroll in excess of $1 billion, capital investment in excess of $1 billion, and over $34 million in new tax revenues to the city. Second area relates to targeted areas. We focus on some key areas. We certainly will work in all of them, but we focus on several. One is aviation and aerospace, obviously the role of Tinker, the Federal Aviation Administration, and all the many suppliers that supply the aviation and aerospace industry here are key targets of ours. They continue to be growth opportunities for us. The bioscience sector is also a huge component of our economy, and that is not so much about recruiting bioscience to Oklahoma City, but it's much more about commercialization of bioscience research. And so we have a partnership with I2E, and we work in a lot of other areas to try to help startup companies and move research out of the lab into creating business. Energy is also an area that we focus on a lot. Obviously, a lot of our big energy companies don't need a whole lot of help, but they have spawned the creation literally of hundreds of suppliers. And as you just approved in your earlier agenda, that's an example of one. We've seen many, many companies come here, establish a presence, and grow here due to the presence of the energy sector here. Logistics continues to be an area of focus, too, because of our proximity to markets and because of the highway rail infrastructure that we have here. And there's a couple of emerging areas, too, that we're spending more and more time on, and that includes software and creative industries, which encompass music, film, and other areas like that. A third area is business recruitment. That always continues to be an important part of our effort. During the same 5-year period that I just went over in business retention and numbers, in business recruitment, we worked on 53 projects that were successful, payroll in excess of $600 million annually, capital investment of just over $600 million, and local tax revenues generated for the city, $27 billion. The fourth area is economic research, and really that cuts across all lines. It supports all aspects of economic development, including the retail development. This has to do with the creation of a lot of databases, the capacity to do a lot of mapping and put all their kind of resources together to do research, to do modeling, and to do forecasting. These won't mean anything to you, but just so that you know the complexity of this, we have a number of databases that we have both built and that we have adapted. Our regional project assessment system, EMSI, which is our workforce analysis, ESRI, which is our business analysts online. We also have 2 different property databases, OKC, EDIS, and Excelligent. It's just very critical that we have the capacity to answer questions when we get asked them. And so the importance of having online available and accessible data is critical. Some examples of research capacity that really help drive the location of companies. This is kind of an old example, but Dell pretty much ended up where they did based on the research that showed their availability and accessibility to the labor force in the metro area. AAA, we landed that project basically using research tools that showed the availability of specific skills that they needed in their particular labor force. So without that kind of data, you really don't have the credibility when you're talking to clients about whether or not they can get the workforce and the talent that they need. Fifth area is marketing and image development. We're very aggressive in continuing to get our image enhanced, both through public relations initiatives as well as trade shows, getting out there, selling, sales support, and really multiple channels and tactics as it relates to social media. We reported to you some time ago about the West Coast image campaign that we did. The thing to remember in that is that it showed us we had a product that people would buy, that we have truly been able to build something here that once people understand it, know it, and see it, they'll buy it. We know, too, from the experience of others who've been in the marketplace on the West Coast, that these companies saw our message, they understood it, and it made a difference. In fact, Tulsa has told us they were in California making call trips, called on 16 companies over the course of a week, and every one of them mentioned our campaign. So we had really good receptivity to it, and so they thanked us profusely for making Oklahoma a better place. It helped Tulsa. The sixth area, and we talked about this earlier, is retail. Primarily, the retail component is really one-on-one. A lot of hand-holding, working directly with retailers, both local retailers and national retailers, to find location that is really data-driven. It was mentioned we do ICSC. That we do in Las Vegas, but we also do it in New York, and we do it in Texas, but Las Vegas is where we have the largest presence because that's the big show. And we have found that your absence is noticeable, so you really have to be at this particular show. We also learned, too, in this business that the relationship with the brokers and the developers is critical. These are the people who sign the leases. These are the people who build the buildings. And we found that it was very critical that we have a confidential relationship with them, that we can provide them the information that they need when they're trying to make sales, and that their ability to be an extension of our recruitment is very, very important. We also found that when you're dealing with retailers, you can tell them anything you want, but at the end of the day, it's show me the numbers. And if the numbers don't work, it doesn't matter how great of a place you are or how new you are, what you think the opportunities are. If they can't stay in business, they're not going to establish it. And a couple examples, too, of where this work really made a difference. You're all familiar with the outlet shops. We certainly played a role in that. But more importantly, we worked very closely with Horizon to provide them with specific data when they started recruiting the retailers to come in there. So it's one thing getting the mall built, it's another getting occupancy in it. And so we provided Horizon with most of their marketing data and most of their demographics and economics so that they could lease that facility. And as you know, that was the first outlet mall that ever opened with 100% occupancy. And you also know how successful they're doing. We also worked with the broker who brought the Whole Foods project here and provided them with many of the demographics and economics that they needed to convince Whole Foods that we were a viable market. So those are the 6 components. I'm not going to read all this to you, but just to remind you, this contract is totally performance-driven. We give you all of the metrics. We reported to you on the 3rd quarter recently. I can tell you we're into our 4th quarter. It looks like we're going to meet or exceed pretty much all of our metrics. Some of our metrics significantly. Others will be closer, but that's certainly okay. And we'll continue to give the activity reports and metrics to you as well. Finally, I just want to say that in the event you just feel you need to increase this contract even larger, we could accommodate that. We could do more if there were more resources out there. What we're doing now, we believe to be very kind of foundational work. I mean, you kind of have to have this research, the economics and the demographics. But where we could ramp up is more awareness, more presence online, more sales trips, a bigger presence out there. We could do additional marketing. Unfortunately, what we have seen is a drop-off in our traffic on our website after our West Coast campaign, because that campaign pointed them to our website. So when that campaign was running, the traffic really went up. Now that we're not running those ads anymore, our traffic is going back down. So that tells us we're missing opportunities in the marketplace, and we wish we wouldn't have to report that. But, you know, we do have a saleable product. And if we had the resources to do more marketing, we believe we would see a continued increase in the retail sector here, both filling voids that exist in the market and bringing more destination retail into the market. That concludes my presentation, but I just wanted to share one final thing with you. It has actually nothing to do with this, but the Wall Street Journal just reported out the findings of a survey by Thumbtack.com on online marketplace for local services. It ranked Oklahoma City as the top city for overall regulatory friendliness. Local business owners gave Oklahoma City top marks for overall regulatory friendliness, including health and safety, environmental and labor rules, and according to the survey of 6,000 small firms that participate in it. The city received a grade of A+. By contrast, San Francisco and New York both received Ds, at least from their sample of business owners. So we ranked also very high for low hiring costs, for lighter licensing regulations, and more robust networking programs. So we continue to get really, really good accolades, and the more we can push those accolades out for people to see, the better response we get in soliciting economic development projects as well as retail projects. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thanks for a great report. Are there questions?
Thank you, I do. Roy, just a word of thanks. I've long appreciated the effort that the Chamber does, and to your question about if funds were available, you would do a few more things. What is on that wish list that you consider to be effective things that could be done that haven't yet been able?
Well, in the two areas, sort of the contract, in economic development, I think doing more of what we did in the West Coast marketing campaign, and that was to put our image out there in the corporate marketing place, that's critical. We saw phenomenal results from that, both in terms of lead development as well as the pre- and post-testing about perception of Oklahoma City. So no matter how good your business climate is, if the perception isn't good, they're not coming. In the retail sector, it would be to have a more aggressive marketing presence as well as a better online presence. That particular slide right there is Philadelphia, and they have a very robust retail site, which we have a retail site, but not real robust because we haven't had the resources to build it. But if we could build a retail site, much like we've done our economic development site that is extremely user-friendly, that retailers could use on their own, do their own stuff on it, do their own research, do their own marketing, we believe that would certainly enhance our success rate. So those are probably the two primary things we would devote more resources to if we had them, because we think we have the foundations kind of covered, but we don't have those areas.
Thank you. Larry?
Mr. Chairman, as I refer this, we're not taking any action on this report.
No action today. It was just informational purposes.
But you're going to submit something to the council between now and the end of the year requesting the $900,000?
What's the proper procedure?
Their request has already been submitted to the city staff, and it's under review, and will go forward as a part of the city's budget, and then we'll come here. The agreement comes to the Economic Development Trust for approval.
Because as I'm sitting here, Roy, and I hear, like you're talking about doing all this to juice up the retail site.
Right.
My business background says, so what? How many more destination retailers will we get next year for this investment? Will that information, is that included anywhere?
I don't think
No.
it's measured that way.
That isn't how the metrics were set up.
So I guess my question comes back then, how much more will we get for the $900,000 if I'm satisfied with the roughly say $700,000 right now and things are going good? How much more are we going to get for the additional $200,000?
Well, that sort of backfills some of the things we have just not been able to do. You're going to get us at a higher and better presence in some of these, well, in Vegas, in Texas, in New York. You're going to see us on the road more, talking to national developers as well as to destination retailers, if that's who the target ends up being. You'll see more updated information, as I mentioned, for the media, including photography that is old, videos that are old that have to be replaced. So not all of it goes to new programming. It backfills stuff that we couldn't do over the last 2 years because we didn't have the money to do it. So we're going to have to make up for what we were not able to do for 2 years.
Thank you. I do have an additional question. Well, on the preceding slide, I was, I think, rightly impressed to see that of the contacts being made within this effort, the wages associated with the jobs achieved or retained are averaging 10% above the otherwise per capita.
Correct.
Did I read that accurately?
Yeah, and that's...
And how do we
one of the
compare in comparison to other regional chamber efforts for that type of a uptick?
They're extremely envious.
Okay.
I mean, we're really leading the pack. We're sort of the model, really, right now. And, I mean, that's not necessarily us. It's the product we have to sell right now and what's going on in our economy, because it's not going on in many, many places across the country. So it's very unusual. Most of them are trying to keep theirs from going down.
Yeah.
And their strategy is minimize damage. And ours is going in the other direction.
And am I right to assume that since you do work with limited resources, if someone calls on you and you think that the job prospects are maybe less than you otherwise would want, you simply have to say, we're not able to spend a lot of resources on that opportunity?
Absolutely. You know, we get a lot of, and you shouldn't generalize like this, but I will, back office, warehousing, that kind of stuff that tends to be at or below those levels. And we don't spend as much time on them, or we give them to the partnership because we lack sites, we lack incentives for those kind of projects. You know, we can incentivize good paying jobs. We don't incentivize average paying jobs. So you kind of tell them up front, yeah, you know, we'd like to have you, but there's limited resources out there for a company like yours. So we can focus on the really high returns.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Then, Roy, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
As we pointed out earlier, we have no action on this particular item. And this next item is similar in nature. This is a report from the Myriad Gardens Foundation on their professional services contract.
Well, hello, and thank you for inviting me to give this presentation. This is to give you some idea of our budget, how the management fee request fits into it, and some benchmarks that we have for the coming year, both financial and programmatic. If you look at the budget summary, our budget this year totals just a little under $4 million, 3.955, and that is a combination of the foundation, the city, and the management fee that we get from this organization. The foundation total expenses are about $2.2 million. The city is contributing $1.7, which is a combination of salaries, utilities, and then the management fee also helps fill in the gap between those two numbers for our total budget. What we are trying to get to with the agreement the city had with the foundation is to have the foundation contribute approximately 2/3 of all the operating monies needed, and the city contributing about 1/3. And that's what we're trying to get to over the next couple of years. So this year, the next budget year, and the year after that are investment years for us. So we can hire the staff, get the programs in place, build up the marketing that we need to do so we're successful in our earned revenue, and also build up our fundraising strategies and capabilities. So we have those two areas, development and earned income primarily, working to get us to that formula that we're all trying to reach for. You can see we took a stab at operating budget projections to get to that formula over the next few years. You can see that our current budget year, contrasted to the new one, that the total is, again, we've just gone up in total dollars a little over $300,000, but the contribution of the foundation has increased from 26% to 32%. So even just given this year, we're very much in a startup mode still, we're able to increase our contribution by that amount. And you can see in the following year, we'll be up to 49%, and then by 2015 budget year, we should be at that 67% that we're planning to reach. And the city's contribution will decline accordingly. The comparison, the management fee that we've received in this current budget year is $517,000. We are asking for a management fee of $951,000, which seems like an awfully high jump, but really it's actually a fairly flat request because we are rolling over all of the part-time monies for part-time staff in the city's budget that we will now administer that through the foundation. We've allocated one skilled trades worker so the foundation can hire that person as opposed to the city. And there's just a small parking adjustment. So really the management fee is not a big increase. It's actually pretty flat to this year's amount. The key revenue benchmark details, this is what we'll be working hard on to achieve these levels. So we have fundraising, which is consisting of different points of revenue, contributions. These are just donations. We have those going up by about 24%. A lot of private gifts are in that. Grants, membership. We're starting a new membership program. We have a goal of about $75,000 for that. Grants, special events. So our total fundraising that we need to bring in is about $640,000 through all these various avenues for fundraising. Then we have our earned income areas, which should also bring in roughly the same amount. And between those two, the economic trust management fee, a little investment income, the city's contribution, that gets us to our 3.955 budget. Some of the expense budget details, you can see it's kind of interesting, the percent differences. Some are quite high because we're starting basically from zero, so we're not terribly extravagant, but you can see we're starting from zero from a number of places, and that's why the percentage increase is so high. For instance, in marketing, we have a new website, a lot of marketing collateral materials, posters and membership programs, all of that. Computers, the licensing fees have jumped up. We have software programs now. We have to maintain different permits and licensing needs. So all of that is an investment in both our fundraising capacities, our earned income capacities, and also putting on quality programs to achieve our mission. This is the organizational chart that we're hope to have to work from this coming budget year. You can see from this chart that we're definitely a hybrid between the city and the foundation. All of the orange-colored positions are full-time foundation staff. The blue boxes are all the full-time city workers that are paid by the city. In two departments, the facilities and horticulture, the part-time staff are, just the facilities department, all the part-time staff will remain on a city payroll. We're transitioning the horticulture from their part-time staff will be paid by the foundation, as well as education interns, cashiers, and other part-time people. So we're taking on the management, hiring and administration and supervision of all the part-time people. And we're adding some new key positions that I feel are really needed to not only make our budget needs, but also add the quality of exhibits and programming that this new garden demands. So we have some key positions. I need to hire a director of facilities so we can ensure that all of the significant investments in the equipment and hardscapes and all of that is adequately maintained and addressed. A director of horticulture is very important so we can have an incredibly beautiful site, interesting plant collections, changing exhibits, plant labels, interpretation, education. So those are two key positions that we would like to hire if this budget is approved. And I'll included here some non-financial benchmarks, which you might be interested in hearing about a few of them. Some of the key things that we want to do are complete all the planting areas. There are a number of places that still need to be filled in and we're working on all of that. We have to repair some irrigation systems. We're adding more containers. We're adding a vine system. So we have a lot of plans to just make our site beautiful and interesting. We need to start a plant database so we can have a list of all of the plants and use it for education, make plant labels. We want to establish partnerships with horticultural experts and organizations so we really become a true botanical garden with a strong education component and plant collections. In education, we need to create a master plan of education programs. What do we want to do over the next few years? What are the programs we're really going to specialize in? What are the needs in the community? We want to offer an enlarged schedule with year-round programs for all ages and make sure they're really quality and interesting and have an appeal to people. We want to assess some of the programs that we're currently doing and make sure that they're really worth the investment or improve them. Things like a summer reading program in our children's garden, we really want to program that as much as possible. And I mentioned hiring we also want to hire a director of education to increase the number of programs, increase the quality of what we're doing. Events are really important. If you've been to the gardens lately, you can see how many people are coming there just to enjoy the site. And so we want to bring even more people there through just fun events, cultural, recreational, art shows, concerts, music, all kinds of things. So we're working to gear up all of that. And the last page here is just to go over again, last 2 pages, some of the benchmarks within these areas so you can understand that all of the foundation and our board are really working hard to earn the money that we need so we can decrease the city funding to our project. So with our fundraising benchmarks, our board of directors are contributing a significant amount of support, almost $300,000. Our annual fund is $100,000. Grants that we'll be applying to, we hope to get at least 100 and exceed that. A new membership program I mentioned, $75,000. Special fundraising event, our annual Orchids event, we have an increase to $65,000. And it's also very important for us, we're going to launch a campaign to increase our endowment, which will be key to the future for our financial sustainability. So we need a multi-million-dollar endowment, and we'll be kicking off that campaign later this year. The earned revenue benchmarks, this is where this is the area where we really have to have the right staff in place and programs in place to earn these fund levels. The ice rink, we have a goal of at least $90,000 this year. This past year it earned about $80,000. Crystal Bridge admissions, we kept that fairly flat, $250,000. Rentals, we've increased this to $100,000 from $60,000. Restaurant concession, we still hope to open one, but in the meantime, we're renting that out a lot for income. And we hope to increase revenues for public events, recreation programs, and so on, as well as education. So we think we can do that, and with the investment and support, again, of the amount that we're requesting from the Alliance, we really feel this will be a key investment, a key growth year, so we can earn what we need to do. So, thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there questions? Yeah, Ron.
Maureen, the events, who does that fall under in terms of your organizational chart?
Well, there's a couple of people. We just hired a new full-time event coordinator, and she reports to our marketing director. We also have an education coordinator, and he reports to me right now, but a new director of education, he'll report to him or her, and that between those two departments, they will be responsible for most of our events and programs.
And second question, relative to Crystal Bridge admissions, WAG to date, since the renovation, remodel, what would you estimate has been the revenue from Crystal Bridge?
From the tickets this year, it's been about, let's see, I think we project we'll end the budget year at about $235,000 or $40,000. think, for this year. So we kept that number fairly flat because we don't have plans right now to add a big new exhibit. And so one of our plans long-term is looking at how can we update the interior, the exhibits, the plantings of the Crystal Bridge. So we really have a compelling, exciting new experience there, both visually and educationally. But until we can do that, I just didn't see that it would grow wildly. So I was a little conservative and kept it about the same as this year.
Thank you.
Larry?
Has there been any coordination between your organization and the MAPS 3 people and their park as far as programming and how those two will interact in the future?
Not officially yet. I mean, informally, as I've met people and talked to them about it, I mean, I think there could be a lot of collaboration, and I think, and I don't know all the folks who are leading that project quite yet, but I think we would be happy to collaborate and be part of that. I think that would be a natural thing for us to do.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your efforts. Next item on our agenda, item G, 4G, is another report for the Alliance for Economic Development.
In your packets is the third quarter report for the Alliance and our third quarter financial statements. I'm just going to hit a few highlights very quickly that are in the report. First of all, this past quarter, it seems we've been really focused on working on downtown parking issues and coordinating and planning for the MAPS 3 projects. Some of the things that are in the report you've seen and heard about, or we've presented here at this trust meeting. For example, the presentation on the downtown housing study recommendations were something that we presented here. We also presented that to the Urban Renewal Authority, and more recommendations will be coming forward on that in the future. On the MAPS 3 front, we are in the process of hiring a firm to help us with the planning and implementation strategies for MAPS 3 private investment. In particular in the Court Shore area and adjacent to the park, looking at the issues and the issues that surround private investment. How can we kind of jumpstart things and make private investment happen more quickly? What kind of things do we want in that park area? What will the market support? What kinds of projects and development? Help us to develop development guidelines and design criteria for the projects, and also to develop implementation strategies, look at financing options, best practices that have worked in other communities, and things like that. So that's a pretty extensive effort that will be taking several months to complete that report. We have received responses from the firms, narrowed those down, had interviews, and as I said, are in the process of trying to make that selection. Some of the other things that you've heard about include the presentation on the employment land study. We're very involved in the completion of that report, and you all had a presentation about that at your last meeting. We also, as I mentioned, we're very involved in the issues surrounding downtown parking. We participated in the downtown parking study, are helping the city plan for the execution of new parking garages in the downtown, helping them examine the issues of where those garages should be located, proximity to existing office buildings and existing office stock, and simple things as how far will people walk to get to work, and changing maybe some of our habits about that a little bit. Looking for potential sites and figuring out which sites work the best. Some have problems and some don't. So we're helping COTBA and the city work through those issues. And the parking study, for those of you who didn't hear the study presentations to City Council, has identified a need for about 2,000 parking spaces in downtown Oklahoma City. So in the central business district. So we're working on that, as well as looking at other areas like Midtown, the Convention Center, Court Shore kind of area in the future, Bricktown, for potential parking garage locations. We are involved in the land acquisition for the MAPS 3 Central Park. The Urban Renewal Authority has been charged with completing that for the, on behalf of the city, so we're involved in that land acquisition project. And we're also in the process of drafting an agreement that we hope to present to the trust soon on acquisition of parcels for private redevelopment adjacent to Central Park. So again, that's an urban renewal area that was approved by City Council several years ago. And so the Urban Renewal Authority will be carrying out that function as it has in the past. Another kind of city/urban renewal project that we've been involved in is the development of the downtown elementary school. That school will be located on a piece of urban renewal property located at Sheridan and Walker. It will be a charter school that is chartered by the I-89 school district, and we've been working with the charter committee and the school district to get that project moving. Last week we had a TIF review committee meeting, and an allocation of TIF funding for that project was approved, and that'll be coming forward to you in the near future. So that project is moving forward. Let's see what else. We just kind of on some of the day-to-day things that I think help us with just our issues of transparency. We're looking at launching a website for the Urban Renewal Authority. They've never had one before. So we're hopeful that that helps people find our meetings and documents and things more easily. We're looking at reviewing some of our incentive policies, especially in light of the new downtown housing study. I've hired 2 project managers to work for the Alliance in the last quarter. And I think that's probably about it. Most of the rest is, we go to a lot of meetings and work with a lot of different groups. So.
Other questions of Kathy on her report? You're busy.
I do have one question. I'm always impressed with the breadth of responsibility that you cover. As you narrow down the MAP 3 private investment strategy, you talked about best practices. I'm curious, because this seems so unprecedented, what other good examples are there out there of something as exciting as what the city is about to do to try to encourage private investment timely?
I think there's a lot of other communities that have undertaken some pretty impressive private redevelopment projects. I think what's unique in Oklahoma City and what's been unique in the past is we typically don't go out and acquire, the public sector doesn't go out and acquire all the land that we expect to be privately redeveloped. And so we're trying to find a strategy that mixes maybe a little bit of public investment for private redevelopment, along with getting the private sector to do it on its own without us having to buy the land. There's examples like Kansas City, and there's a project in Albuquerque, where the public sector owned hundreds of acres of land that they could redevelop. So, we're looking for some examples where we can kind of meld, how we do things with the way other cities have done things.
Are there any other comments or questions? The chair would entertain a motion to receive the report.
So moved.
Second.
A motion made and second to receive the report. Are there further discussion? Cast your votes. And the report is received. The next item on our agenda is comments from the staff. We have a comment.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to remind you that our meeting for May 22nd will be canceled, and we may try to have a special meeting on the 17th of May. I'll be getting with all of y'all individually to see if that will work in your schedule. So, but our meeting for the 22nd of May will be canceled.
I did have one last thing. I'm passing around an invitation to the groundbreaking for Phase 2 of the Outlet Mall. It's been much more successful, I think, quickly than maybe they originally anticipated. The other thing that I'm handing out is a spreadsheet of their sales from August to March, and In March, they were 38% over the target that we had set for the month on sales. Basically, every month except January and February were over target, and some of them were, as you can see, kind of triple-digit over target. So the outlet mall's performing very well, and we're very happy about it. Go shop.
Thank you, Kathy. Hope that Go Shop doesn't get too far. Any other comments from the staff? Meeting on the 17th, and the time is yet to be determined. We're looking at 3:30, but that's still a little bit of a question. Comments from the trustees? Comments from the public? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.